Hey, it's Jim over at Reverb.com. I'm here with Johnny from Alchemy Audio. We previously did a Klon Shootout and we're back, and today we're focusing on the Big Muff ram's head. There are a lot of fuzz pedals out there, but you'd be hard pressed to find a more household name than the Big Muff. Most notably because David Gilmour used one, Jay Mascis of Dinosaur Jr. used one, and we have a few clones as well. It's a highly cloned pedal. But let's start with the original. Johnny, why don't you tell us a little bit about this one?
Well, as you said, ram's head. This is kind of the second era of the Big Muff pedals, beginning in 1973. This particular one dates to 75, and there's just some very subtle graphic differences between the different ones. Within the ram's head, there's about 20 different circuit revisions, and some are more subtle than others. Some probably aren't detectable by the human ear, but it was mostly just based on availability of circuit components. So if they ran out of one thing or had a surplus of another, they would pop it in there and keep going.
Cool, cool. And so the price point of the originals, they can go somewhere between $400 and $800, sometimes all the way up to $1,000 if they're in really, really good shape. And like I said, it is an often cloned pedal, so we have a few really good ones. Let's start with this Wren and cuff. They seem to have gotten the look down. Obviously, I know you mentioned that you bought this one actually on Reverb. The street price is usually around $279. Might be able to pick them up used for a little less. They come up a fair amount. So how does this one stack up, at least circuit-wise, to the original?
Very faithful reproduction, right down to the kind of wide solder traces on the circuit, and obviously the enclosure that is an exact replica of the ram's head. There's a few features here, such as an LED that are more modern, and then the fact that you can supply 9 volts of power to it. But beyond that, it's a pretty faithful, reproduction.
Cool, and obviously for a little bit less money for those people that are a little bit more budget conscious. Moving down the line, we have a great pedal by Vick Audio, great seller on Reverb, really great price points. This one streets at about $119. And they rarely come up used because people love them so much. This one actually has a few more features to it than the other pedals. What's the deal with this switch?
It's an EQ select. The characteristic sound of the ram's head is that famous kind of scooped mid-tone, but as a lot of guitar players have discovered when they play in a live situation, that's not always desirable because you kind of get lost in the mix while using this effect. So what Vick Audio has done is added an EQ switch that allows you to replicate that original sound if that's what you're going for, but you can also just have flat mids or actually boost the mids if you needed that for your sound. And
moving right along, this is a BYOC kit for all the DIYers out there. You can get the kit for about 89 bucks. They come up on Reverb all the time. This one was made by Johnny. Seems to have the same sort of EQ switch with that. Is that right?
Yep. So it follows the same idea as the Vick Audio in that it gives you classic reproduction of the circuit, but you can also boost or flatten the EQ. And in the case of this one, you can actually remove it entirely from the circuit.
Wow. Cool. So obviously really great price point on that if you have a soldering iron and the wherewithal to man it yourself. Johnny actually sells these on the site as well, so you can pick one up right around the same price as the Vick Audio. So there's a lot of history about this pedal, and we've detailed it, a lot of it on our blog. We have a post called the Big Muff Timeline where we interview Kit Ray, who is one of the specialists in this field. He has a great website called kitray.net where he gets really granular about the differences between these pedals. So you can check that out online. But for now, let's bring in Joe and see how these sound.
Hey everybody, good to be back. Let's dive into these big muffs. I got here a beautiful 1981 Strat, black on black for the Gilmour look. Grabbing a Jazzmaster in a few minutes, get some Mascis tones. Mascis played a Marshall, Mr. Gilmour a high watt, but here we've got a Tone King Royalist 45, classic British voiced amp, EL84s. Should be a beautiful go between those two setups. Here's my clean tone. Okay, I've got here a beautiful Thurston Moore signature Jazz Master. We've dimed out the original Ram's head and tried to approximate that tone with the other pedals here. Let's see what we've got. We've scaled back the volume significantly on these Klones, which tells us that we've got a lot more gain to work with on these newer versions as opposed to the original. Now we're properly going to dime everything out and really see what we're working with, find the differences between the four.
All right, well, we hope that that helped illuminate this classic fuzz for you a little bit. As we were packing up, we all were talking and arguing about which our favorite one was, and we all had a different one. As Johnny mentioned, there are 20 different circuit variations for all three versions of the Ram's head, so it might be impossible to actually duplicate the mojo that is inside. But I think what we ended up realizing was that you can find that tone for a fraction of the price, whether that's the BYOC kit, the Caprid, or any of the other clones that you can find every day on Reverb. So get out there and find your fuzz.